Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Root Podcast, where we have real conversations that helps us heal, grow, and connect with ourselves on a deeper level. So today I'm joined by Sunny Chopra, who is doing incredible work in our South Asian community. And he is a men's mental health coach, speaker, podcast host, and advocate who is on a mission to normalize conversation around mental health, emotional well-being, and vulnerability. And he's creating safe spaces for men to open up, heal, and redefine what strength truly means. Hello, Sunny, and I'm so excited that you have come to Ru Podcast. So, Sunny, growing up in a South Asian household, you have experienced like suppressing
Mm.
your emotions, staying silent through your struggles. So, why do you think in South Asian families men would suppress their emotions?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me here, probably. And I think it's a very important conversation. And I'm really grateful and honored to not only share my story, but just my expertise in what I do in speaking and in coaching. Yeah, to answer your question, it's just because we've never really been taught on how to talk about emotions, crying. A lot of that is just brushed to the side. It's more about man up, right? Push through. But usually when you're younger, it's something I feel like it's ingrained in us as men when we're young. And then when we move into being young adults and so forth, our mindset is almost like hey, we just need to shut up, tough it up, be a man and push through. But that can be very damaging. So I think it starts very early on that men are supposed to be strong. They're supposed to have it all together. But there's so many signs that show that's it can really damage a guy, and it can really hinder their life, their relationships, and every aspect of their life.
Yeah. Yeah, like daily comments. I remember with my brother, they would be like, "Why are you crying? You're not a girl."
Mm,
That was pretty common thing we use with our boys. And
yeah.
also, if you have seen Russell Peters, mostly do the right thing. But what is the right thing, right?
What
Like
is the
I've
right thing? Yeah.
like all of these problems, and it starts from when we're young.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, what do you want to say to that dad who is trying to teach his boy and make a difference in his boy's life? Because we have been through it, we have gone through it, but what different can we do now?
Yeah. Great question. I just want to kind of lay the foundation here. Talking about your emotions doesn't mean crying every time and you're in bed, you're depressed, right? That's obviously one aspect of it. But really, it can just be like, let's say, using your example, let's say a child doesn't do too well in school or they don't win an award. One aspect, one perspective the father might take is you're a failure, you suck. You need to do better. There's a little bit of motivation in there, and you can certainly use that as motivation. But then there's also that, okay, yes, you did fail. What are you feeling? How are you feeling? Right? You're feeling like I'm feeling really low on myself. And I think it's just sometimes giving the space, right? Because I always say to people that it's not necessarily that you have to drown yourself in the emotions and feel sorry for yourself, but it shouldn't just be you go through something, you shut up, you move on. It should be you go through something, you process it, the emotions, and then you move on, right? And I think that's how we learn. And I think going back to your question, as fathers in those situations, we need to provide safe spaces. Like, how do you actually feel? What? Let's talk about it a little bit more, right? I think there's so much focus on the result. Did you achieve it? Did you not achieve it? Okay, you didn't. Just shut up and move on. But I think we need to look at the development, the growth, the progress, and have conversations around that.
Yeah. Yeah. Having a conversation, I feel it is so important. And I also host meditation. So, in like when people come in, I always see that, first of all, disconnected from their bodies
Yeah,
because we do not process our emotions and we do not know how to. Some people don't know
yeah,
how to actually do that. And the first step is to have a conversation. But so, what do you think? Let's take an example. What would a dad say if, suppose, a son came and the football game or the soccer game didn't go well? He lost and he's now very upset about it. We can take a young boy, 7 or 8 year old. So, how can the dad provide that safety around that conversation?
Yeah, and that's again a good question. I think the end goal is still important, right? He wants to be a successful football player. That's still, I'm not saying we should only focus on progress and growth and development. The end goal is still important, right? Because that's what we're striving for. But I think in that scenario, what would be important is just letting them know, okay, you didn't do too well, but ask yourself, did you give it the best you could? If you didn't, that's on you. You need to find a way to figure out what we can do to get you to the next level. And if you did give it your all, hey, it's okay. Some days you're not going to succeed. And if you're a little down on that, it's okay. Sit with it, process it, but also learn from this. Don't dwell in it too long, right? And that's like a slippery slope as well, where
Yes.
sometimes people will stay in it too long and they just might say, oh, forget it. I don't want to be a football player, right? So it's like, what can you do to learn from it? But also, what can you do to process it and provide that encouragement? Okay, yes, you didn't do too well. You should have done better.
Yeah.
But now what can you do next time? Rather than just saying, oh, you suck, you're a failure of a son. And these are things we've, I've come across this with people I've worked with. That doesn't really give you much way to improve. All you just kind of know is you got to get better, but it's not really supportive, right? It's more so like,
Yes.
okay, should I even tell my dad next time now? Because now he's just going to call me a failure. Yes, you did fail, right? Fail. But where's the development in just calling that out to people, right? We
Yeah.
need to provide spaces. And I think that's when it starts that early and then you move on in life, the mindset almost becomes, okay, if I don't succeed, then my world is just collapsing because I'm a failure, right? So failure doesn't always have to be something that is looked at as the end of the world, right? It should
Yeah.
be looked at as, okay, I failed. This hurts, but I'm going to come back from it.
Yeah. And setting a so why, especially in our culture, and I've seen men in my family, they struggle to ask for help.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's there?
But yeah, I think it's a combination of things. Like with the examples I'm giving, right? We were never taught on how to talk about this. It wasn't welcomed. It was really results, productivity, job based. And then the other thing is you're going to look like that perception, guys will think, I'm going to look like I'm weak. I'm going to look like I'm not good enough. I'm going to look like I'm not strong enough. People are going to judge me. People are going to think less of me. People are going to ridicule me, make fun of me, and they might even disown me, right? There's so much difficulty in opening up, right? And if it's not conversations that are usually welcomed or ever had, it's very hard to do. And
Yeah.
it's just also sometimes people don't know what they're feeling because you're going back to your example of people don't know how to process it. I remember I was working with this one client. I just had to meditate for 5 minutes and I did. Nothing's coming to my mind. What am I doing wrong? And I'm like, because you're not. It's good that you mentioned that example because I was working with someone. He's so disconnected from his emotions because he's so focused on that grind. But I think, yeah, it's a combination of things. And I know it sounds very intimidating, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't change that approach.
Be more open and asking for help if we
Mhm.
need to. And what I see with my husband is like when he comes back end of the day, he never would share his struggle. Okay. If it's a hard day, he would be like, everything is okay. And he's pressing all of that in. And months later, he would be like, this went wrong, that went wrong. And
Yeah.
all of the things would just come up. And I was like, okay, it would have been nice if we had the conversation every single day about that thing that you've been piling up. So it's like, I feel like also when we come home is to get the time out. And we're not used to, I feel like when we saw our parents,
Yeah.
we never saw that. Did we ever saw
No.
them having a conversation? What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, it hits home. I struggle the same way. And what I tell people today is either you address your emotions or they will address you. And I think in your husband's example, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And there's too much of either people are remaining silent or they're explosive, right? Stuff hits the fan and it's done. And that's something that I struggled with a lot in my life was it was going from holding everything in, not saying a thing to exploding. And a lot of it damaged some of my relationships. It damaged just, I came across as someone that was very, what's wrong with you, Sunny? You sound crazy. You sound like you're losing your mind. You sound like you're having all these outbursts. And I almost felt like I was a bad guy. I was someone who I thought, yeah, maybe I am crazy, right? So I think it's really important because when we hold things in, it damages our health, our stress, it impacts our relationships, right? And it's a lot to hold. And I think it goes back to if we're not doing if we're not checking in with ourselves, if we're not really connecting to our mind and our body, we won't really know what's going on because we're pushing through the grind of work, right? I always tell people, bearing your emotions with work is so easy. Working hard is easy because you can just say, oh, yeah, I'm not going to deal with this. See you later. I'm going to go work. I want to work extra. And that's an easy thing to do. But it catches up to you one way or another. Fortunately for you, the example with your husband, it was obviously a lot. But in other cases, we can see people are it results in violence. It results in rage. It results in, like I mentioned, damaged relationships. Their health is not doing well. They end up in the hospital, right? So these kind of, and then, or they can turn to alcohol and drugs. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of severe things that can happen if you just hold on to these emotions and just say, oh, I'm just going to tough it up. I'm just going to tough it up. I'm just going to tough it up. That actually won't work. It's going to be a lot to take.
Other than being silent, what do you think are some of the emotional wounds that you see repeatedly in the men you work with?
A lot of it starts in childhood, right? It's one thing I'll commonly see is if they were again trained that they need to get A pluses, right? So they'll strive for that. And if they get anything less than that, they feel their worth is tied to that, right? So it's all about that. I don't have time to look after my health. I don't have time to look after emotions because essentially in their mind, it's if I don't get the A plus or if I don't accomplish this task, if I don't make this money or I get this job title, this is basically the end of my life, right? So it's kind of like they look at it that way. And then see, other thing too is if you talk about your emotions, like maybe they did try to one day and someone said to them, like, just shut up, don't be a little wimp, that sticks with them. And then it carries on to adulthood, right? And they don't necessarily think they're, oh yeah, I shouldn't talk about this today because when I was 7, I was told I was a wimp. But it becomes ingrained in their mind without thinking about it, right? Brushing our teeth, you don't think about it, but it's a habit we do, right? So it almost becomes like these habits without thinking about it, right? And that's why a lot of the work I do is let's really look at your values. Let's look at your belief system. Let's look at your habits because I could talk to you about, hey, you should talk about your emotions. Like I say it to you 100 times, but if it's not resonating with you on an emotional level, on a deeper identity level, then it's going to be hard.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And also, Sunny, because we have moved away from our homeland, right? Especially our parents who've come here,
Yeah.
left their families back home. So, how does this generational trauma show up in our South Asian families?
Yeah. It's still that's the thing. It's the awareness, right? The way our parents dealt with emotions or dealt with certain situations, it continues to carry on, right? I always tell people, your parents have passed to you a lot of good things, but there's a lot of things that they passed you that probably won't serve you, right? I can give you some examples right now. One thing that was passed to me was don't tell people what's really going on with you because they're going to judge you and they're going to think less of you. Whereas I'm like, no, I don't really care about that because to me, it's more important being authentic in my own skin. So I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And there's other thing that's passed to me is be kind to people, right? So that's something I carry on. I've carried on for different generations. But then there's other of don't speak up, keep things to yourself, don't raise your voice. And that wasn't serving me anymore, right? And that was really destructive for me. So I think it's important that we evaluate a lot of what our parents have taught us and see if it serves us. I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but you need to look at it in the aspect of, is this going to help me become the best version of myself, right? And I've worked with so many people where I always ask, you're struggling with your emotions, you're drinking, you're engaging in a lot of destructive things. Why didn't you seek help sooner before coming to me? And the guy said, because my dad never did it. I would see my dad with a bottle every night. So I did the same thing. But this is why we need to question a lot of these things, right? Just because we saw it as we were younger and it can carry on. Because even he said his dad saw his dad do it, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
you got to be the one to break that.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Same thing happened with me because I podcast. So I talk about my personal life sometimes. And one day my mom is, why did you have to say that? I did this trailer, and mom is like, do you really have to share that? You don't have to share your personal stories. And I'm like, mom, that's how people relate to you because everybody's
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah.
It's not like I struggled and no, everybody else is not doing that. It's everybody, every family. And every person is going through something, but it's, yes, like you said, use the word authentic. It's being authentic to yourself in that
Mhm.
moment. And that impacted me. That's where, when I started being more authentic to myself, I started changing. My life started changing. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do things my own way. That's a big thing in our families for sure.
I just want to give you another analogy because it'll be really powerful for the listeners. Is
Yeah.
kind of relating to that is I always tell people, think of it this way. When you're playing a certain role, right? Because of what I mentioned, if I had continued to carry these beliefs and values, I wouldn't feel like myself, right? I would feel like I can never speak up. I can never share how I'm actually struggling and feeling. And I always compare it to think of when someone's doing a concert, right? They're on stage, they're singing or whatever. Everyone's happy. Everyone's like, yeah, you're good. I accept you. But then I'm like, then that might feel good on the outside, right? You did a good job. You're conforming. You're not speaking up. You're doing what your family wants you to. Same thing with the concert, right? Everyone's happy. But I'm like, everyone goes home. You go back in the curtain and you're the only one sitting with your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. I'm like, you have to carry that. So although on the outside, in front of the curtain, you're performing, you're doing all these great things, you're wearing masks. It's when that's all, when the concert is over, how you actually feeling, right? Where's the disconnect between who you are in front and who you are behind the curtain, right? I always tell people, if there's a huge disconnect, then you're truly not living how you want to.
Yes. Yes, 100%, Sunny. And I also watched this show that Just Rain has recently.
Oh, late bloomer. Yeah.
Yes, late bloomer. And in that show, a lot of the South Asian families' problems he shares. And I'm like, oh my God, this hit home. So many, like when his sister leaves, doesn't get married, and then he is struggling. He's not married. So his dad is so mad at him. And
Yeah. Did you watch
he'll,
the finale of this
I have,
season?
I'm on season 4 right now. I think,
Oh, okay. I won't ruin it for you then. Okay. Yeah.
yes, I haven't seen it, but I'm like, oh my God, this is making so much sense. And I think
Yeah.
every person in our culture should watch that show for
I
sure.
agree. Yeah. Honestly,
Yeah.
there's some scenes I watched and I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's some scenes I just watched it. I got chills. I'm like, holy, this freaking hits.
Yes. Yeah. And especially also his relationship with his girlfriend,
God.
his dad.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, all of those things. So that's what it shows is we're trying to accomplish our own goals, be ourselves, but also in that we have so many things to take care of. Our family, like a relationship with our parents, a relationship with our wife or husband, our relationship with the kids. So it's not we can focus on one thing. Sometimes it's like we just want to make our families happy. That's it. And we stop taking care of ourselves. That's where everything starts, right?
Yeah.
I was going to come to that question you just mentioned is many men appear very successful on the out, but suffering internally, right? So what can they do different to, like you said, coming back to themselves, but like how will they come back to themselves?
Yeah, I would say first thing is schedule it, make time for it, right? There was a point in my life, the only time I rested was when I was sick or hungover. That's the only time I would not take a break because it was like you're chasing success because this is what guys are supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it was such a empty feeling. And I always hear people say, okay, I don't want to be selfish. And I think that's another thing in our community that like if you look after yourself, take care of yourself is selfish. And I totally disagree with that. And if you actually do look after yourself, you'll realize you can actually give more to people, right? If I hadn't gone to therapy, done this inner work, done all these things, like I wouldn't be able to have better relationships with people because I'm more confident in myself. I'm more loving. I have less guardrails, right? Like I'm okay if I like, hey, say something to someone or extend my love. I'm not worried about, oh, well, they still like me, right? So I'm able to give more. And as a result, my relationships are better and the better I look after myself. So I think it's, if you do find yourself in a situation where you have the whole world on you, whether it's family, kids, wife, household, right? Like I get it. Like all that stuff is stressful and those things happen. But I think it's important to carve out time just for yourself as well. Schedule it, right? Maybe you can't do it every day, Maybe you do it once a week, maybe you do it every 2 weeks, right? And there's so many different things that you can do, but you have to get out of your mind that, oh, this is selfish or I don't have time.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to say that is very important is sometimes our own family are not the best people to go to. And I know that might be hard to hear, but, and again, it's not because they have evil intent, but if they haven't really processed their emotions or talked about things, it might be hard for them to give you that support, right? So if you feel you don't have support within your circle or your family, that's where, you can seek out other people. But I think at the very least, do it for yourself. Not everyone has to know, right? You don't have to tell your whole family, oh yeah, so every Thursday, 30 minutes, I'm just gonna go for a walk, no phone, and just be with myself, right? Just go out and do it. But I think scheduling it and getting out of the mindset that it's selfish is important, because the more you look after yourself, the more fuel you add to yourself, the more you can give to others. And ultimately, that's what all guys want to do, right? In most cases, they want to provide and give to others. While ironically, one of the best ways to do it is look after yourself.
Yeah. And we can see that. Why is that? Because if we go back thousands of years and we were in the jungle, women had one job and then men had one job. They had to go out, hunt, provide
Mm,
for the family, bring food back, right? That was their role. And the women's role was to nurture their kids, nurture and talk to the community, have better relationships. So women learned to do that in that sort of from thousands years back. But then
mhm.
men, if they had to hunt and it would be like full of blood and all of that, so I think they wouldn't come back and talk about it.
No,
Right.
yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Right. So I think they started suppressing from then onwards, right? Not sharing what had happened outside in the world. But now we do not have that kind of threats and we do not have that kind of fear.
And rules have changed too and evolved. Right.
Yes, yes, our roles have evolved. Now even women go work. So we are both balancing and then men come home and help. So we also need to make sure that we have that conversation with our families. And like you said, sometimes it is not the right fit. But I feel like finding a person, maybe it's for therapist, maybe it's a friend that you let that out and give you a better advice. And I feel like also sometimes we got to step up in the sense of maybe we need rehab, maybe we need therapy. But a
Mhm.
lot of Asian men, what we do is like you said, we're weak. So we do not go for it, right? Like, how
Mhm.
can these men can be out of their comfort zone and seek a therapist or seek rehab in extreme cases.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it really just takes one person to talk to, right? Whether it's a family, say family friend, or someone in your family. It really takes one person. And yeah, sometimes getting people into therapy or coaching in a general sense can be a hard thing to do. Sometimes they may be forced to
Yeah.
go, or they're in a dilemma or the ultimatum from their spouse, right? Like I've had cases like that where I worked with clients.
Yeah.
But I honestly just think what I would say to that is start small, right? You don't have to, after listening to this podcast, to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to sign up for a therapy session. I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to start writing down my emotions. I'm going to start listening to a podcast, right? Start small, take small steps. If you look behind, like reading books, before I actually started talking to someone, I did talk to someone, but I wasn't as open. But then when I started reading books about mental health and listen to podcasts, then I'm like, wow, okay, what they're talking about, I'm really struggling with. And there's actually help out there. So I think it can be done in steps as well. And just knowing that in most cases, people, you go to a therapist, you go to a coach, they've heard these stories. And it's not to take away from what you're individually experiencing, but it's nothing new, right? At the end of the day, we're human. We have coaches, therapists, and other aspects of our lives in most cases, right? Like sports coach, career coach, all these other things. And you have a doctor too for your health. You can consider that a coach. So why not have it for our mindset and our emotions, right? Because sometimes it's just not talking about your emotions.
Mhm.
It's the mindset, right? Because if your mindset is not one of, hey, I talk about this, then that's going to be an obstacle in itself, right? So sometimes it's about changing your mindset and working with someone that can help you see a different perspective.
Yeah, 100%. That's for sure. And also, Sunny, like when we talk about it's a confidentiality, right? When you go to a
Oh,
therapist,
of
people
course.
are
Yes.
afraid that if they share it with somebody, so there, that's when they can open up, talk about their emotions and feel like processing that is a process one by one. And I also want to tell people that sometimes you go to just one meditation session or one therapy
Yeah.
session and you think that it's going to change your life.
Yeah.
So what do you want to say about that?
That's the thing. These kind of things are a constant practice, right? Meditating, journaling, like I do that on a daily basis. I've been doing it for 3 years. Therapy, that's an ongoing thing too. So yes, you could, I would say you can get to a place where you built a foundation where maybe your mindset is different now. Maybe you're comfortable talking about your emotions. Maybe you're comfortable speaking out before instead of waiting for things to blow up, right? So you can get to a point where I feel it can become maintenance mode. But to say that you've gone to therapy and I'm done now, I'm for life, I'm good. Just like anything in life, you got to continue to grow. You continue to go to the doctor, you continue to go to a dentist. You have to continue to do it if you want to stay to a point. But I do think you can build a strong foundation, right? Like
Yeah.
even for me when I first started, I would go like once every 3 weeks for a year. And then now I do it like once every 2 months or 3 months, right? Just because I've built a good foundation, but I also like to check in, right? So I do think you can get to a good point, but and even clients I work with, right? Look, we'll do 3 sessions within 5 weeks,
Yeah.
and then it kind of just spreads out a bit. So I do think you can get to a good point, but it's a continuous practice, I would say.
100%. Yeah, for sure. Like, same thing. Like, when I do meditations, it's people usually want a miracle in the first go. They're like, I've
Yes.
come, you
Yeah.
know, I've come with this problem, really wanted an answer here. And I was like, yes, you get to some point, but I feel like consistency is the deal. You've got to be consistent. Like you said, I also been journaling for a long time now, about 2 years or more, and
Mm.
that has changed my life. And
Yeah.
it brought me so much clarity, like so much alignment, so many opportunities, because now I know where am I heading? Like
Yeah.
what is my end goal?